The importance of record keeping for both your business and personal finance cannot be overstated. And while there are so many sophisticated AI tools and apps that you can use for finance tracking, Google Sheets remain the GOAT. It's easy to use, accessible on mobile and web, automatically syncs up, and you have your data stored to reference back to for as long as you want. But you see, the problem with Google Sheet templates, especially for finance tracking, is that you find one that seems perfect, you get all hyped, and then you start to record every single transaction. And for a while, you're consistent and proud of your progress. Then it starts to feel like a chore, you skip a few entries, and before you know it, you've given up. I figured out that it boils down to two problems: overcomplicated templates and the pain of documenting every single transaction. These are the two problems I'm going to help you solve in this video. Solving the first problem of overcomplicated templates is pretty easy. Well, if you don't take into account the many years of trying different template styles, tweaking, designing and redesigning, until I now have something I call the Vault. My Google Sheets template is really simple in design. I love the dashboard. It's one of the most useful features I've integrated into the template. And then there is the budget planner section. I'm going to take you on a proper tour in a second and show you exactly how I use the template. But before that, let's talk about the second problem, which I think is the most important. You see, when I tell people that I have recorded every single transaction I've made for the past 3 years, they simply don't believe me. But it's true. Most people try to painstakingly write every single thing they buy, like every drink, every snack, every little thing. But that's just not sustainable long term. So here's my system. First, I break down all my expenses into 3 big buckets: essentials, extras, and endgame. Essentials are your must-haves. So we're talking food, rent, transport, internet, electricity, medical bills, that sort of thing. Then extras are your fun lifestyle things: your date nights, your streaming subscriptions, fragrances, haircuts, entertainment, and stuff like that. And then the end game expenses are the things that grow you. So your investments, your business tools, savings, skill development, education, things that improve your life long term. That way, my spending data stays organized but not overwhelming. Every day as I go about my life, I take note of everything I spend. I just use the Notes app on my iPhone, or you can use the Google Keep if you are on Android. Nothing fancy. And at the end of the day, I open my Google Sheets template and record each transaction in the right category. So instead of writing down every individual item I buy, like I bought bread, drinks, I just log the total amount I spent in that category. For example, if I go grocery shopping and spend 30,000 naira for the week, I don't need to list every single product I bought. I simply record 30,000 naira in groceries under essentials. Of course, doing it this way means you lose some detail. I won't know exactly how much of the 30,000 naira went to bread or soft drinks, but what you gain is a sustainable system that you can actually keep up with long term. Because the real goal here is not perfection, it's consistency. It's better to have slightly less detailed data that you can actually update every day than a perfect tracker that stresses you out and then you give up after a week. At first, it will feel like work, especially if you're a shopaholic who does a lot of shopping. Remembering to note down your daily spending and categorizing it later is not as easy as it sounds, regardless of the system. But I promise you, after a few weeks, it will become second nature. Now, the categories and subcategories should reflect your lifestyle. For instance, if fragrances are super important to you, nothing stops you from making that an essential. But if they are nice to haves, then keep them as extras. It's not about following my exact template, it's about building one that fits your lifestyle. And also, you can use comments to save some more details of your spendings in each category if you really don't want to lose too much detail. If you're finding this video helpful, consider subscribing to the channel because I cover tools, resources, and real-world workflows that make life easier for solopreneurs, digital professionals, and small business owners. I don't just research, I do this stuff for myself and share my own results. And also, I'll be sharing exactly how I structure my business and handle compliance going forward now that we have the new tax reforms in Nigeria. And also for freelancers and solopreneurs who earn in foreign currencies. I thought to mention that Raynest is currently running a campaign where for the next couple of months, your deposits will be free of charge. So you can take advantage of that campaign to keep more of your money. Okay, moving on, let's talk about how I actually use this template. And to make it make sense, I will use myself as a case study. I'm a solopreneur, a remote worker, and a content creator, and most of my income comes in USD. But I live in Nigeria, which means I spend in the Naira. So that means I'm constantly switching between the two currencies of dollar and Naira and dealing with exchange rates that change every single month. That's why my personal template has a dual setup. One side for my USD earnings and the other for my Naira conversion, plus a space for the monthly exchange rate. So before I log my income each month, I check the current exchange rate so I always know exactly how much I've made in Naira terms. Now I know not everyone deals with two currencies, so I've created two versions of the tracker. One for people like me who earn in one currency and spend in another, and a simpler single currency version if you are in, say, the US or the UK or anywhere else where you spend in the currency that you earn. At the top of the sheet is the income section. This is where everything starts. And here you're going to list all your income sources for the month. That could be your main job, your freelance gigs, affiliate earnings, side hustles, content income, whatever brings in money. And once you enter those numbers, the sheet automatically calculates your total income for the month. If you're like me and you deal with currency conversions, you will also enter your exchange rate for the month, so the sheet converts everything accurately to your local currency. Below that, you will see a small summary box that shows amount left to spend. That number starts as your total income and automatically reduces as you begin spending for the month. So at any point, you can see how much you still have available. Now, the second section is where you log your daily or weekly spending. This is where the system we talked about earlier, the essentials, extras, and endgame comes in. So each time you record a spending, you drop it into the right subcategory like groceries, transport, streaming, investment, etc. And then on the right side of the sheet, you're going to see your goal percentages. So how much of your income you plan to allocate to each main category, and your actual percentages, which update automatically as you spend. That way, you can instantly see whether you're staying on track or overspending in any area. There's also a simple pie chart that gives you a quick visual snapshot of where your money is going. I'll be honest, it's not the most essential part of the template. It's just a nice at a glance way to see if your spending matches your goals. So if I plan to save 50% of my income on that end game, I can glance at the chart and know immediately whether that is actually happening. Now, one of my favorite parts of the template is the budget planner. This is what I use to plan my month before the money even arrives. So before the month begins, I list my planned expenses here. I draw them from my essentials, extras, and endgame categories. And then I allocate how much I intend to spend on each category. There's also a column for holding accounts. This is where I assign each budgeted amount to a specific bank account or wallet. For example, I might have one account for petrol, another for rent, another for savings, and so on. That way, once my paycheck arrives, I immediately send each portion to its assigned account. Doing this gives me incredible clarity. It allows me to know exactly what money is for what. It prevents that situation where you dump all your money into one account and think you have more than you actually do. Each month has its own tab on the sheet, so from January to December. When a new month starts, I simply move to the next tab, enter my income, update the exchange rate if needed, and repeat the process. I start with the income, record all my earnings, and apply the exchange rate. And then I set my spending goals. For instance, I might plan to put 50% towards endgame, maybe investments, savings, business tools. 30% could be for essentials, and then 20% for extras. And then the next thing is I track my actual spending daily. So as I go about my day and spend, I keep track of my spending and put them in the appropriate category. And then the sheet automatically updates the actual percentages and highlights in red whenever I go beyond my target for any category. At the end of every month, I check if I met my saving or spending goals and adjust for the next month. I've added a few bonus sheets to make the system even more powerful. I've added the payroll tracker for tracking how much I pay my team members. I also have the subscription tracker for tracking recurring costs I pay for business and personal tools like my domain, hosting, and other tools. And then I have my LLC record for tracking money that flows in and out of my registered business, which helps a lot during tax season. Now, each Each of these bonus sheets is built on the same structure as the main template. You can duplicate and customize them to track as many projects as you want. For example, if you're doing a small studio renovation or any personal project, you can duplicate one of these sheets, rename it, and track that project's expenses separately. You can even adjust the dashboard to pull specific data from that new sheet. The dashboard easily is the most valuable part of the entire template for me. This is where you see your entire year at a glance. It shows your total annual income, how much came in each month, and how much you spent in each of the big three categories: your essentials, extras, and endgame. It also shows your business related spending, so things like your payroll, your subscription, and the recurring expenses. And I even have it more detailed, giving you exactly how much you spend on subcategories like your food, grocery, rent, medical, and all of that. So the monthly tab tells you what happened in each month, but the dashboard tells you the whole story of your year. And that's where the real awareness happens. Because sometimes you won't realize how much you've been spending on something until you see it in one big number. For example, the first year I used this tracker and I integrated the dashboard, I was shocked by how much I had spent on gifts alone. It never felt like a lot in the moment. So 5,000 naira here, 10,000 naira there. But at the end of the year, the total made my jaw drop. And that's why I say that the dashboard is where you truly start to make better financial decisions. You can look at it and say, okay, I'm spending too much on this, or I'm not saving enough there. And then you can make adjustments that actually matter. It's not just about recording numbers, it's about building awareness and creating clarity, and then also designing a system you can stick with for the long term. And once you make it a habit, it genuinely changes how you think about money. You can find the link to download the tracker in the description. I'll see you in the next one.